At my sister's wedding, security found Grandma's sapphire brooch inside my coat. My mother told the police I had been stealing since I was 12, but the coat check video was missing 12 seconds, and those 12 seconds proved the theft had been planned. Months later, in a pretrial hearing, the prosecutor froze the footage on a single frame. My mother, Evelyn Reed, stood behind the coat rack with a small blue velvet pouch in her hand. My charcoal coat hung near the far end. Caroline, still in her wedding dress, watched from the doorway. The prosecutor faced my mother. "Mrs. Reed, why did your daughter text you? Use the inside pocket. The same place Dad said he found the money when Hannah was 12. My mother's lips parted before she answered. I was back at Ashford Glasshouse on the afternoon of the wedding. Maya drove because I had spent the morning considering whether to go. Rain tapped against the windshield, blurring the brick houses. My charcoal coat lay across my knees. I had owned it for 6 winters. It was plain, warm, and familiar, the kind of thing no one noticed unless they needed somewhere to hide a story. "You can still change your mind," Maya said, as the glass house appeared beyond wet trees. "You do not owe anyone your presence." "If I do not go, they will say I am jealous," I said. "If I go and do not smile enough, they will say I came to ruin it. I just want one day when my presence is not used as evidence." Maya looked at me, then parked. Inside, the conservatory glowed with candlelight reflected in tall windows. White roses climbed metal arches. Guests held champagne and spoke in polished voices. My mother saw me before Caroline did. "Hannah." Evelyn crossed the room with both arms open. As though photographers had been waiting, she kissed my cheek and kept one hand on my shoulder while relatives watched. "I am so grateful my daughters could put aside old misunderstandings for one beautiful day." Misunderstandings. That was the word my family used when lie might have required someone to admit responsibility. "I am here for Caroline," I said. "Of course you are." Her smile did not move. Caroline approached in a satin gown with Grandma June's sapphire brooch pinned above her heart. For a second, I forgot everything else. The stone was deep blue, surrounded by small pearls, and I remembered Grandma fastening it to her church coat before Sunday service. "You came," Caroline said. "You invited me." "I know." She smoothed her dress. "I just was not sure." Luke joined us before the silence sharpened. He hugged me lightly and thanked me for attending. "Caroline was worried you might bring up the Reedwell situation today," he said. I looked at her. "I had no intention of discussing the business at your wedding." Caroline gave a quick laugh. "Luke, please, not today." But she had already told him enough to make my arrival feel like a threat. A coat check attendant took my coat and placed a numbered tag in my hand. I watched her hang it near the end of the rack. The inside pocket held only my house keys and a folded tissue. The ceremony passed without conflict. Caroline looked happy. Luke cried during his vows. For nearly an hour. I allowed myself to believe the worst thing ahead was an awkward photograph. Then, before the family portraits, Caroline touched the place above her heart. The brooch was gone. She searched her dress, then the dressing room. Evelyn moved faster than anyone. She told the venue manager to close the side doors and prevent guests from leaving with coats. "It has to be here," she said. "No one takes anything until every garment is checked." The music lowered. Conversations thinned. No one had searched a coat when the first faces turned toward me. Not Luke's family. Mine. A cousin looked away when I met her eyes. My father stood beside Evelyn, saying nothing. Caroline pressed both hands over her mouth. I felt the old accusation entering the room before anyone spoke it. The security manager asked whether I would come to the coat check area. Maya stayed beside me. An attendant brought down my coat. The manager opened the outer pockets first. Empty. Then he reached into the inside left pocket. His hand stopped. He withdrew a small blue velvet pouch. The room seemed to contract around it. Caroline began to cry. My father closed his eyes. My mother did not look surprised. She looked at me with the exhausted sadness of someone watching history repeat itself. "Not again," she said. In that moment, I knew this had not begun at my sister's wedding. It had begun when I was 12. All those years ago, Jonah Ellis raised one hand before anyone could move closer. "No one touches the coat or the pouch again," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried across the coat check area. He asked the attendant to step back, then looked at me. "Has this coat been out of your control since you arrived?" I handed it to the coat check attendant. "Did you come back here?" "No." "Did you enter the bridal suite?" "No." "Do you consent to the coat being examined and photographed?" "Yes," I said. "But please record everyone who has handled it." I was not trying to sound like an attorney. I was not one. My job at the college involved compliance files and grant records. I knew that once several people touched the same object, everyone later remembered the order differently. Jonah nodded and began writing names. Caroline stood near the doorway, crying into both hands. "Why can't you let me have one happy day?" she said. "Why does everything have to become about you?" "I did not take the brooch." "You always say that." My mother moved toward the police officers when they arrived. She spoke softly, as if the humiliation belonged to her. "Hannah stole money when she was 12, Evelyn told them. "We tried to handle it privately because she was a child. She has been angry about the Reedwell sale, and recently she demanded access to records from that incident. Important family occasions have always been difficult for her. When the attention is on someone else, every sentence sounded measured. None sounded improvised. My father stood beside her. One officer asked whether he had seen me take the brooch. "No," Martin said. Then he glanced at me. "I did not see her take it, but her history makes this difficult to dismiss." That hurt more than an accusation. He had not said I was guilty. He had simply given everyone permission to believe it. The officers separated us for statements. They photographed the blue pouch where Jonah said it had been found, documented the coat, and placed the brooch into an evidence bag. They asked the attendant who had accepted my coat whether the area had remained staffed and who had access to the service entrance. No guest claimed to have seen me touch the brooch. The coat had remained in an area accessible to venue employees and members of the wedding party. My family had also described a dispute connected to Reedwell. The officers said they needed to review the security footage before deciding what the evidence supported. They did not arrest me. They also did not clear me. I left the wedding through a side entrance while guests watched from the glass corridor. Some looked curious. Others looked embarrassed for me. A few looked satisfied, as though an old family rumor had finally become visible. Maya drove me home. By morning, Caroline's account had posted a video. It began with an attendant holding my coat. In the clip, I pulled it from her hands and said, "Do not touch my things." Then the video cut to Caroline crying. My mother's voice could be heard behind the camera. "We have been through this before." The clip ended there. It did not show the attendant reaching into my coat before putting on gloves. It did not show me handing the coat back after Jonah instructed everyone to step away. It did not show me asking that the evidence be preserved, or answering the officer's questions, or consenting to photographs. The caption read, "I never wanted to make a private family matter public, but the safety of our guests and the protection of my grandmother's property must be respected." Messages arrived within minutes. Aunt Linda demanded that I return the brooch even though the police had it. My cousin Jason wrote, "Caroline gets one wedding day. You could not give her even that." Another relative mentioned the missing scholarship money from when I was 12. Not everyone attacked me. Many relatives said nothing. They viewed the post and disappeared. Several removed wedding photographs that included me. Their silence felt cleaner than an accusation, but not kinder. None asked what the police had said. None asked whether I was safe. Then Aunt Beth sent a message. "I do not know what happened, but I know you should not be alone tonight." I did not answer. I saved it. That evening, I watched Caroline's video again, then again. I saw myself pull the coat away. My face looked hard. My voice sounded cold. Without the missing context, I looked exactly like someone who had been caught and was trying to regain control. "Maybe I really do look guilty," I told Maya. She sat beside me on the couch. "Are you looking at what you did?" she asked. "Or at the story they placed around it?" I stared at the frozen image of my own hand gripping the coat. "I don't know." My phone rang. It was Jonah. "The video your family posted does not match the original system file," he said. Exactly 12 seconds were removed. Jonah did not send the footage to my phone. He told me the original file had already been locked inside Ashford Glasshouse's security system. He had restricted access, created a procedural backup, and recorded every login after the wedding. Then he notified the detective assigned to the brooch complaint that the public video might have been edited in a way that supported a false report. "The original goes to law enforcement," he said. "Not to you, not to your family, and not through email." By noon, Maya and I were sitting in the office of Naomi Park. Naomi was a civil attorney with a quiet voice, a narrow desk, and no interest in dramatic promises. Jonah had given her contact information to the detective after I asked for representation. She had already reviewed Caroline's post, screenshots of the comments, and the incident number from the wedding. "Today is not the day we win a case," Naomi said. "Today is the day we stop anyone from changing more evidence." She asked me to explain everything without guessing. I told her who had taken my coat, where I had stood, what I had said, and what I had not seen. When I started describing what I believed my mother must have planned, Naomi raised one hand. "Separate what you know from what you think," she said. "Both matter, but they are not the same thing." Later that afternoon, the detective allowed Naomi and me to view a working copy of the original security footage at the station. The source file remained preserved. The camera covered the coat check corridor from above. There was no sound. At first, nothing looked unusual. Guests arrived. Attendants moved hangers. A woman in a silver shawl asked for help with a torn claim ticket. Then, one attendant left the counter to assist an elderly guest near the lobby. My mother appeared through the employee door. Caroline stood outside the coat check area, still wearing her wedding dress. She looked down the hallway, then back toward my mother. Evelyn carried the blue velvet pouch. She moved directly to my charcoal coat. There was no searching, no confusion. She opened the coat with one hand, reached into the inside left pocket, and placed the pouch there. Caroline turned her head toward the corridor as another guest passed. Evelyn smoothed the coat, returned it to the same position on the rack, and left through the service door on the opposite side. The sequence lasted 12 seconds. Those were the 12 seconds removed from Caroline's video. My hands went cold. "That proves she planted it," I said. Naomi did not answer immediately. "It proves your mother had the pouch, entered a restricted area, opened your coat, and placed the pouch inside," she said. "That is powerful, but there is no audio." She listed the explanations the defense might offer. Evelyn might claim she was searching for the brooch. She might say she believed I had already hidden it. She might argue that she checked my pocket and accidentally left the pouch there. Caroline might say she had no idea what her mother was doing. Do not ask a silent video to tell the whole conversation, Naomi said. Let it prove what it actually shows. The police sent preservation requests for the relevant phones and accounts. Nothing came back overnight. Days became weeks. During that time, my family continued calling the incident private, accidental, and misunderstood. Caroline's video remained online. I stopped reading the comments, but Naomi kept copies. 3 weeks later, the detective called Naomi. Investigators had verified a short message exchange between Caroline and Evelyn from before the brooch was reported missing. Naomi read it aloud in her conference room. Caroline had written, "Which pocket?" My mother replied, "Inside left. Same place your father said he found the envelope when she was 12, Caroline asked. What if she stays calm? Evelyn answered. She won't when they open her coat in front of Luke's family. I had imagined that proof would feel like relief. It did not. They had not merely wanted the brooch found. They had wanted an audience. They had wanted my face, my voice, my hands pulling the coat away. My reaction was not an unexpected complication. It was the product. They did not need me to take the brooch, I said. They only needed people to watch me while they said I had taken it. That evening, Caroline sent me a message. Mom only wanted to test whether you were really trying to sabotage the sale. You are the one who turned this into a criminal matter, I replied once. All communication concerning the brooch and the video must go through my attorney. Then I stopped answering. The next morning, Naomi received a copy of a family agreement connected to the Reedwell sale. Buried near the end was a clause requiring family members to release all claims related to the 2000 Scholarship Fund incident. No one had ever told me that the accusation from my childhood had anything to do with the sale happening now until that very morning. The clause in the Reedwell agreement pulled me back 26 years. I was 12 when the scholarship fundraiser was held in the gym behind Reedwell's first building. I spent most of the evening arranging donor name cards along a folding table. Caroline was 8 and wearing a white dress for a children's performance Evelyn had organized. Near the end of the event, a blue envelope disappeared. It held cash and checks pledged to the scholarship fund. My mother found it inside the inner pocket of my coat. At least, that was the story I had been given. Martin said he had checked the coat himself. I remember standing in Evelyn's office, repeating that I had never touched the envelope. She did not call the police. At 12, I believed that was mercy. Instead, she called it a family meeting. I was required to apologize, write letters to 2 donors, promise I would stop trying to ruin Caroline's opportunities out of jealousy, and attend counseling for attention-seeking behavior years later. I understood why no police report had been made. As independent investigation might have asked where the envelope had been before it appeared in my coat. It might have compared the donation records. It might have interviewed people separately. Evelyn did not want questions. She wanted a confession she could supervise. No one outside the family was allowed to ask why a child accused of theft had never been interviewed alone, why donors had received apology letters before the accounts were checked, or why Caroline's name appeared nowhere in the written version. By morning, Evelyn's explanation had become the version everyone was permitted to repeat. That night became a pattern. When I made a mistake, my mother said it revealed my character. When Caroline made one, she said Caroline was overwhelmed. If I cried, I was manipulating everyone. If Caroline cried, dinner plans changed, Conversations ended, and someone took her home. Martin usually found me afterward. He would drive me to a diner, order pancakes, and tell me my mother loved me in a complicated way. He never corrected the accusation. He never asked me to take back the apology letters. For years, I called those meals evidence that my father understood me. Now I saw them differently. I had comforted the consequence without confronting the cause. Naomi found Gloria Alvarez through an old payroll record. Gloria had managed Readwell's books during the fundraiser. She refused Naomi's first call and ignored the second message. I immediately assumed Evelyn had paid her to remain silent. When Gloria finally agreed to meet, she arrived carrying a worn document folder. Inside were a scholarship reconciliation sheet, a copy of her shift log, and a settlement agreement from the month she left Readwell. I looked at the payment amount. "So she paid you," I said. Gloria's expression hardened. "She paid wages she had withheld," Gloria replied. "Overtime, opening shifts, and deductions she had no right to make. I took the money because my rent was overdue and I needed to leave." The room went quiet. "I thought you accepted money to help them hide what happened," I said. "I accepted money so I could pay my landlord and get away from your mother." Shame rose in my throat. I had taken the way Gloria survived and turned it into evidence against her character. My family had done that to me for most of my life, and I had repeated it without noticing. "I made your survival look like proof against you," I said. "My family did that to me, and I just did the same thing to you. I am sorry." Gloria watched me for a long moment. "The difference," she said, "is that you stopped when you learned you were wrong." She opened the reconciliation sheet. Gloria had not seen anyone place the envelope in my coat. She refused to claim otherwise. But she remembered Martin carrying the envelope before he announced where it had been found. The financial record showed every donation had already been counted and entered before the envelope supposedly disappeared. No money had actually been missing. Still, Evelyn created an incident report stating that I had taken the fund envelope. Gloria said that report was later used to explain an unrelated adjustment in Readwell's books. "So the theft never caused a loss," I said. "No," Gloria answered. "The story created paperwork. The money was already there." She turned to her shift log. Gloria remembered Caroline crying near the costume room. She had heard her say, "I only moved the blue envelope." Caroline had been 8. "I do not want Caroline punished for something she did as a frightened child," I said. "I want to know why the adults looked at one scared child and decided another child should become the criminal." Gloria closed the folder. "There may be one more record," she said. 4 days after the fundraiser, Martin had drafted a statement about what happened. Gloria saw him place it inside an envelope with my name on it. He never submitted it. He locked it in Readwell's document safe. Naomi explained the Readwell sale without legal jargon. Northbridge Learning Group had agreed to buy the 4 centers for $5.6 million. Evelyn and Martin had signed documents stating that no important financial records had been altered. No serious incident involving a child had been concealed, and no unresolved family claim could damage the company's ownership or reputation. My request for the old scholarship records threatened all 3 promises. If Northbridge learned that Evelyn had created a false incident report, the buyer could delay the closing and examine other files. That delay could prevent my mother from transferring the $250,000 she had promised Caroline for a house. It could also expose the way the report had been used to explain an adjustment in Readwell's books. But Naomi said the money was only part of the motive. "My mother has survived worse financial problems," I said. She has not survived losing control of the story, Naomi replied. Evelyn had spent decades presenting herself as a model founder who protected children, supported working parents, and built Readwell through discipline and sacrifice. If the truth came out, she would have to admit that the institution she used as proof of her character rested partly on a lie about her own daughter. Parents might ask how many other reports had been adjusted. Employees might question what happened when records threatened Evelyn's image. Most of all, she would lose the power to decide which version of the past everyone was allowed to hear. Naomi sent a formal request to Martin's attorney. It demanded that he identify the Readwell document safe, preserve all related records, produce the statement Gloria described, and provide a truthful account within 7 days. His response arrived through counsel. Martin did not remember whether such a statement had ever been completed. I reached for my phone. I am calling him. Naomi stopped me. If he tells the truth, we need that truth to exist outside a family phone call, she said. If he lies, we need the lie to exist outside your memory too. I put the phone down. Several weeks later, after a court order in the civil case, a records contractor searched Readwell's off-site storage facility behind boxes of payroll files. They found a locked metal case listed in an outdated inventory. The contractor documented the case before opening it. Inside were the altered incident report, the scholarship reconciliation sheet, an unsigned statement, and an envelope with my name written across the front in Martin's handwriting. Naomi photographed everything before reading the statement aloud. Martin had written it 4 days after the fundraiser. Caroline had been holding the blue envelope. Evelyn found it in the costume room after Caroline admitted moving it. I had not taken the money. Evelyn decided the envelope should be placed inside my coat because Caroline was too young to carry the shame of being blamed. Hannah, she had said, was strong enough to survive an accusation. Martin agreed to claim that he found the envelope there. He wrote that he knew it was wrong. He also wrote that he intended to tell me the truth when I was older. I read that sentence twice. I had become older every day after he wrote it. Martin asked to meet with me at Naomi's office. He looked smaller than I remembered, but I refused to confuse exhaustion with accountability. I was afraid the family would fall apart, he said. The family fell apart when you decided one child could carry a lie better than the other. I never chose sides. You did choose, I said. You only chose through actions quiet enough that you never had to hear yourself say it. His face folded. I thought I was protecting both of you. You protected Caroline from one frightening mistake. You protected Mom from consequences. You protected yourself from conflict. The only person you did not protect was me. Martin began to cry. Years earlier, his tears would have made me soften the truth until he could bear it. I might have reached across the table, told him I understood, and accepted guilt for the pain his own choices had created. I did not do that. I believe you are hurting, I said, but your pain cannot become my new responsibility. He wiped his face and looked toward Naomi. What happens now? You tell the investigators everything, she said, and you preserve every record you still control. Martin nodded, but he did not immediately agree. 3 days later, the forensic review of Readwell's computer system arrived. After receiving the preservation demand, Martin had logged into the company network using an administrator account. He opened an archived folder connected to the 2000 fundraiser and deleted it. The deletion had failed to destroy the evidence. An automated backup had preserved the folder before he removed the local copy. Martin could no longer say he had simply forgotten. He had hidden the truth when I was 12, and now, faced with the same choice, He had tried to hide it again from everyone. His silence had become an action again. Luke watched the original footage twice. The first time, he said nothing. The second time, he paused when Evelyn entered the coat check area with the blue velvet pouch. Then he turned to Caroline. "Did you know she was going to put it in Hannah's coat?" Caroline sat at the edge of their hotel bed, still wearing the robe from the morning after the wedding, for several seconds. She looked at the frozen image instead of him. "Yes," she said. Luke closed the laptop. She began speaking quickly. She said she never expected Jonah to call the police. She thought Hannah would be confronted, forced to apologize, and asked to leave before the reception ended. She believed the video would show Hannah losing control and make people stop listening when she raised questions about Reedwell. "And the money?" Luke asked. Caroline looked down. "If the sale collapsed, Mom could not give us the $250,000. Luke packed a suitcase and moved into a hotel that afternoon. He did not announce a divorce. He did not remove his wedding ring. He told Caroline to give her phone to her attorney and stop contacting Hannah directly. Caroline followed him to the door. "I did not know Mom would tell the police Hannah had been stealing since she was 12. Luke turned around. "Then what did you think the brooch was doing inside your sister's coat?" Caroline had no answer. For several days, she continued blaming the situation on panic, pressure, and her mother's influence. Then her attorney received part of the preserved family messages. One exchange had taken place between Evelyn and Martin before the wedding. Evelyn wrote, "If Caroline panics and talks too much, we say she planned it herself. She is the bride. People will believe she wanted drama," Martin replied. "She will never forgive us," Evelyn answered. "She will need us when the house money is gone." Caroline read the messages alone. For the first time, she understood that Evelyn had built two stories. If the plan succeeded, Hannah would become the jealous sister who stole a family heirloom to destroy a wedding and threaten the Reedwell sale. If the plan failed, Caroline would become the selfish bride who invented a cruel prank without her mother's knowledge. Evelyn would remain protected in either version. Through a criminal defense attorney, Caroline requested a meeting with the prosecutor. "I was not invited." And Naomi told me that was appropriate. I was the victim, not the person directing the investigation. Naomi later shared only what she was permitted to disclose. Caroline admitted she had participated voluntarily. No one had threatened her. She knew I had not taken the brooch. She agreed that my reaction would be recorded and used to discredit me. She wanted to protect the house money and keep the Reedwell sale on schedule. She also surrendered a voice memo from the morning of the wedding. Caroline had begun recording conversations about money because Evelyn often denied promises after making them. The file had been created before the ceremony and automatically stored in her cloud account. In the recording, Caroline asked, "What if Hannah stays calm?" Evelyn answered, "When they open the correct pocket in front of Luke's family, she will not stay calm." "What if Jonah calls the police?" You cry. You say you only wanted to find Grandma's property. If it becomes serious, you say the idea was yours. You are an adult. Caroline, I cannot be responsible for every decision you make. But this is your plan. Only if it works. The recording did not make Caroline innocent. It made the structure of the betrayal clearer. In her formal statement, Caroline said, "I thought being Mom's favorite meant I was safe. Now I understand it only meant I was useful." Then she added something more important. "My mother taught me how to justify what I did. She did not put the phone in my hand, send the messages for me, or force me to agree. I chose. I did not forgive her. I also did not ask the prosecutor to ignore her cooperation. The mistake Caroline made at 8 was an accident, I told Naomi. The choice she made at 34 was not. That distinction mattered to me. I would not turn a frightened child into a criminal simply because my parents had done that to me. But I would not let the child Caroline once was become an excuse for the adult who helped frame me. When Naomi finished summarizing the statement, I expected satisfaction. Instead, I felt grief for the girls we had been. Caroline had been protected until protection required obedience. I was called strong whenever strength made me easier to sacrifice. Different roles kept us trapped inside the family system, but only one of us chose to repeat it again. The prosecutor offered Evelyn a plea agreement that would have resolved the major charges without a public trial. She refused. According to her attorney, Evelyn wanted a jury to hear the truth about the kind of daughter Hannah has always been. Before the trial began, the judge limited how much of my childhood the jury could hear. The old scholarship incident could be used only to show that Evelyn knew my coat had once been used to accuse me, that she knew the original story was false, that I had recently requested the records, and that the phrase, "same place," revealed planning. The jury was not being asked to punish her for what happened when I was 12. The judge also warned both sides that the trial would not become a general judgment on whether my family had been loving, unfair, or dysfunctional. The charges concerned choices made around Caroline's wedding and the records connected to them. That distinction mattered to me. I did not need the present case to carry every unanswered year. Jonah testified first. He explained the coat check cameras, the original system file, the access log, and the 12 seconds missing from the exported video. He identified the employee door, the service exit, and the people authorized to enter the area. "Why did you call the police?" the prosecutor asked. "Because the public video did not match the preserved recording, and the recording showed an item being placed inside a guest's coat." He did not guess why Evelyn did it. He described only what the system showed. Gloria testified next. She admitted keeping a copy of a Readwell record without permission. She admitted receiving money when she left. She also admitted she never saw Evelyn place the blue envelope in my coat. The defense leaned on those limits. Gloria did not resist them. She explained that the payment covered wages Readwell had withheld. She confirmed that Caroline once said she had only moved the envelope, that the reconciliation sheet showed no missing donation, and that the official incident report had been created afterward. Her willingness to say what she had not seen made the rest harder to dismiss. Martin entered looking older than he had in Naomi's office. He admitted knowing I was innocent. He admitted helping Evelyn create the false story, keeping the statement hidden, and deleting records after the preservation demand. "Why did you wait?" the prosecutor asked. "I wanted peace." "For whom?" Martin looked toward the floor. "For myself." Truth had arrived too late. He did not become brave because he finally answered under oath. His testimony simply made the cost of his delay visible. Caroline testified under the terms of her plea agreement. The defense attorney asked, "Blaming your mother helps reduce your sentence, does it not?" "Telling the truth may help me," Caroline said. "It does not change what I did." Then it was my turn. The defense asked whether I resented Caroline. "Yes," the attorney paused. "I resented that my family built one daughter's life by destroying the other daughter's credibility." "You did not see your mother place the scholarship envelope in your coat when you were 12, correct?" "Correct. So you do not actually know what happened." "I do not remember every second. I know I did not put the envelope there. I know my father wrote that when the events were still fresh. I do not need to invent what is missing in order to trust what has been proven. I stopped. For most of my life, silence after an answer had felt dangerous. In that courtroom, it felt exact. Evelyn took the stand the next morning. She said she entered the coat check area only to search for the brooch. She claimed she accidentally left the pouch in my pocket. Caroline, she said, had misunderstood her instructions. I had used the confusion to damage the Reedwell sale. Martin was blaming her to protect himself. Gloria was a bitter former employee. The prosecutor did not argue with her tone. She placed the evidence beside each answer: the video, the messages, the voice memo, the hidden statement, the deleted folder. Each item contradicted a different explanation, but together they showed something simpler. My mother had prepared the accusation before anyone could react to it. Finally, she asked, "If you believed this was a harmless family test, why had you already prepared a story for what Caroline should say if the police became involved?" "Because Hannah turns everything into a crisis." "A crisis you created?" My mother's expression changed. I could not let her ruin another closing over something she should have moved past. The courtroom became still. Another closing, not a misunderstanding, not a mother searching for jewelry. A business transaction she believed mattered more than the truth I had carried since childhood. The prosecutor asked no further questions. When the jury left to deliberate, I watched the door close behind them. For the first time in my life, my mother could not end the conversation by speaking louder than everyone else. The jury returned late the next afternoon. Evelyn was found guilty of conspiring to plant false evidence, making a false report to law enforcement, obstructing the investigation, and directing the concealment and deletion of records. Separate financial violations connected to Reedwell were handled later through additional proceedings and settlement negotiations. The verdict did not declare her guilty of being a bad mother. It held her responsible for choices the evidence could prove. Caroline had already entered a plea agreement. She received a 3-year sentence, with 7 months to serve and the remaining time suspended. She would spend 2 years on supervised probation, pay restitution for direct losses and part of my legal expenses, avoid all contact with me except through attorneys, and continue testifying truthfully. The conviction remained on her record as a felony. Her cooperation reduced the active jail time. It did not erase what she had chosen to do. Evelyn was sentenced 2 months later. The court imposed 30 months of active incarceration, additional suspended time, probation after her release, restitution, and a no-contact order. She was permanently prohibited from managing a licensed childcare operation and lost control of Reedwell. The prosecutor explained that the case did not prove Evelyn intended physical harm. It proved that she had planned to manufacture evidence, destroy my reputation, mislead police, and protect a business transaction through deception. Her sentence reflected those crimes. Not every injury she had caused inside our family. Martin eventually pleaded guilty to offenses connected to his false statements, the deletion of files after the preservation demand, and the concealment of records. He received a short period of confinement followed by supervised probation, financial penalties, civil liability, and an order requiring a public correction of the old scholarship report. His late cooperation mattered to the court. It did not purchase his place back in my life. The civil case continued after the criminal proceedings. The settlement compensated me for damage to my reputation. Professional opportunities I lost while Caroline's video circulated, legal expenses, counseling, harm caused by the false report, and the financial rights affected by the old Reedwell records. Some relatives called the payment revenge. It was not. I am not accepting money to sell the truth, I told Naomi. I am accepting it because my life is not a place where other people are allowed to cause damage for free. I paid my legal bills, replaced income I had lost, continued therapy, and put the rest into savings. I did not donate everything to prove I was generous. I did not help Caroline buy the house she had expected. I did not pay Martin's penalties. Security was not selfish, simply because my family had taught me to feel guilty for needing it. Readwell did not close overnight. An independent administrator took control while regulators reviewed its financial and safety records. Employees who had not participated in the misconduct remained at work. Parents received direct notices explaining the management change. The centers continued serving children, while outside professionals examined the files Evelyn and Martin had controlled. Northbridge canceled the original $5.6 million purchase. After claims, regulatory costs, and outstanding obligations were addressed. Another operator acquired Readwell's assets at a lower price. Most teachers kept their jobs, and most families did not lose childcare. I never wanted Readwell to disappear, I said. I wanted it to finally become what my mother had always claimed it was. A place that protected children could not be built on the sacrifice of one. Luke remained separated from Caroline through the criminal case. Their divorce became final the following year. He provided the documents he had preserved, answered investigators honestly, and then left my life when his role was complete. He did not become my closest friend. He did not need to. Helping expose the truth did not entitle him to intimacy with me. After beginning probation, Caroline sent one letter through her attorney. It contained no demand for forgiveness. Near the end, she wrote, "Mom taught me how to justify what I did. I was still the person who chose." I placed the letter in the case file and did not answer. Her acknowledgement mattered. It did not create a relationship. Accountability had arrived differently for each of them. Prison for the planner, a reduced sentence for the cooperating participant, public correction for the silent accomplice, and repair for me. It was imperfect, but it was no longer hidden. Martin asked for one final meeting. Naomi sat beside me when he said he wanted a chance to become my father again. "You told the truth," I said. "That changed the record." He waited. "It did not change the history between us." Martin lowered his eyes. For once, he did not ask me to make the consequence easier for him to carry. 2 years later, I still lived in Richmond and still worked at the community college. The case did not become my new identity. I returned to grant compliance, attended staff meetings, reviewed budgets, and eventually accepted an invitation to join a committee that strengthened protections for whistleblowers. Some days were ordinary enough that I forgot how many strangers had once watched a video and decided who I was. Other days, I checked my coat pockets before leaving a crowded room. If a security officer walked toward me too quickly, my shoulders tightened before my mind caught up. I stopped treating that reaction as proof that I was weak. My body had learned caution. Healing meant noticing it without shame and deciding what happened next. Maya remained my closest friend. I no longer treated independence as a test I had to pass alone. When I was exhausted after a long day, I handed her my keys and said, "I need you to drive." I did not apologize. Accepting help did not mean surrendering control. It meant choosing who was trustworthy enough to share the weight. Aunt Beth began visiting occasionally. We did not pretend the lost years had disappeared. One afternoon, she said, "My silence hurt you." I did not rush to comfort her. "Yes," I answered, "but telling the truth now still matters." We built something careful after that, not the closeness she might have wanted, and not the punishment I once imagined. Repair depended on responsibility, patience, and respect for the limits I set. After Evelyn completed the active part of her sentence, a letter arrived through an address approved by the court. On the envelope, she had written, "Do not let one mistake destroy an entire family." I did not open it. She was still calling a plan a mistake. She was still asking the person harmed to preserve the family that had harmed her. The language had softened, but the structure had not changed. I asked Naomi to return it. There was no final confrontation, no dramatic meeting, no last speech across a table. The absence of that scene was the boundary. For months after the trial, I could not wear the charcoal coat. When the police returned it, I had it cleaned and hung it in the back of my closet. One cold morning, I took it out. I stood before the mirror longer than necessary. Then I put it on and placed my house keys inside the left inner pocket, the place where Evelyn had hidden the velvet pouch, and where my family once claimed the blue envelope had been found. For years, my family treated my name like a pocket they could fill with whatever story protected them. That morning, the pocket held only my keys. I did not call myself completely healed. Justice did not return my childhood. The verdict did not erase the video. The settlement did not transform people who shared my blood into a safe family. But the truth stopped their story from owning my name. A boundary was not cruelty. Forgiveness was not permission for someone to return. I could recognize Caroline's accountability, Martin's confession, and Beth's regret without reopening every door they had once walked through without asking. Some doors could open slowly. Some could remain closed. The choice was finally mine. I still carried grief, but grief no longer dictated whom I trusted, what I accepted, or how much of myself I surrendered to keep other people comfortable around me again. Who do you believe carried the greatest responsibility? The mother who designed the plan, the sister who agreed to carry it out, or the father who knew the truth and stayed silent for years? Share your view in the comments. And if you believe truth, courage, and healthy boundaries can change a life, subscribe for more stories about family, justice, and the long journey back to yourself.